What's up, world? I'm Cameron McKinney, and this is Pop Culture Spotlight, a podcast about the movie Train Dreams. Here's a quick synopsis. Logger Robert Grainer has finally found purpose in his life with his new family when a natural disaster causes tragedy. The film stars Joel Edgerton, Felicity Jones, Kerry Condon, and William H. Macy. Standout performances. Prior to Train Dreams, my two favorite performances from Joel Edgerton are in Warrior as mixed martial artist Brendan Conlon, who is forced to face off with his brother Tommy. So most of the time when I think about this movie, I think about Tom Hardy. It's his best performance. But every time I watch it, I also think there's no one else who could have held his own against Hardy quite like Edgerton, who's clearly not given enough credit for his work in that film. The second being Loving, where he plays Richard Loving, who goes out of the state to marry Mildred because interracial marriage was illegal in Virginia at the time. It's similar to Warrior in that Edgerton is paired with Ruth Negga, who is giving an all-time great performance for which she was nominated for an Oscar. And I see similarities between that performance and this one in that Richard Loving is a hard-working guy who has trouble showing his emotions but cares deeply. And the same goes for Robert Grainer in this film, who is working all of the time but is doing it for his family. And look, later on in the film, he's asked to pay a heavy emotional arc, and instead of going over the top with it, Edgerton plays it brilliantly subtle. And part of that is why I don't believe he's a bigger name, because he's not a flashy actor. He's not a look at me what I'm doing in this movie type of performer. He doesn't do a crazy voice. He just becomes the roles that he plays. Most people probably view him as more of a supporting actor than a leading man, but after watching Train Dreams, I want to see him be given more opportunities being the lead of movies. I mean, for a while now, he's been the guy paired with the younger actor who's on the rise, Timothy Chalamet, Lucas Hedges, Dev Patel. What I like most about his performance as Robert is he doesn't make the character one thing. He's complicated. I was starting to think that Felicity Jones was overlooked as an actress. I, of course, saw her in The Theory of Everything, Rogue One, and On the Basis of Sex, and did not think she was given enough great roles in great movies. And man, has that changed fast. Last year, she was in The Brutalist, and this year she's back with Train Dreams. She's being able to be in these films that on paper feel like small character-driven stories, but the filmmaking, along with the emotional stakes, make them feel epic and cinematic. In Train Dreams, the two-time Oscar-nominated actress plays Gladys, the wife of Robert, who doesn't want him to miss too much time with their daughter. Some people might portray this character as a cliche, but Jones makes her feel real. For a lot of people now, William H. Macy is best known for playing Frank Gallagher on Shameless, but long before that, he was playing troubled characters in Fargo from the Coen brothers and Boogie Nights and Magnolia from Paul Thomas Anderson, and that's what's so unique about his turn in Train Dreams. He's playing a guy in Arn who is at peace. It could not be more different than the roles he's most known for, weaselly type of guys who only care about themselves. And finally, Kerry Condon broke out with the Banshees of Inisherin and had a huge 2025 with a giant blockbuster F1 and with Train Dreams, where she plays Claire, who connects with Robert after the tragedy that hits his family. It's time to take notice of the writing duo of Clint Bentley and Greg Quidar. They are responsible for writing the films Transpacos in 2016, Jockey in 2021, Sing Sing in 2023, and Train Dreams in 2025, and the pair have switched back and forth with who's directing those movies, with Bentley directing Train Dreams, which is a movie that is being compared compared to The Brutalist, a movie that came out just last year. But the movie that I and many people were thinking about watching this was The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. And the obvious connection comes from the narration in both movies. But even more than that, these are two movies that make regular men feel like mythical figures while also humanizing them. You could compare them visually as well. Both of these two films are two of the best looking movies you are ever going to watch. It's a rare thing to watch a movie that makes real life look and feel epic. And that's exactly what this movie is doing. That is also something that The Brutalist did. That is something that The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford did as well. And even though I'm comparing this film to that one, there are also times when you're watching a movie like Train Dreams where you're like, wow, I've never watched a movie like this ever before. And a large part of that has to do with you're not being given many movies like this. That's why The Brutalist was celebrated in such a big way. Yes, it's one of the best movies you'll see, but it's also very different than the movies we watch on an everyday basis. You know the movies, giant blockbusters, superhero films, animated movies, studio movies that are plot driven. You do not watch the movie Train Dreams for the plot. You do not watch The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford for the plot. You certainly don't watch The Brutalist for the plot. There's a common misperception in movies right now that for a movie to feel big, the plot of the movie has to be really high. Like the stakes need to be enormous. That is simply not the case. The filmmaking can make a movie feel bigger than anything you've ever seen. For instance, the movie that is being celebrated more than anything this year is Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another, a film that many people have called more of a hangout movie than a plot-driven one. That movie feels larger than life because of the way Paul Thomas Anderson made it. Train Dreams feels bigger than life itself because of the way Clint Bentley made this film. Now I think is a good time to talk about the fact that this movie was released on Netflix, and I was watching it thinking to myself, wow, this is one that I should have seen in a movie theater. This is a movie that is too good to just be seen at home. But I get why it went to Netflix. I don't know if Train Dreams would have been a huge box office success. I know The Brutalist was a hit, making $50 million on a $9 million budget. I just don't know if that was going to be the case for Train Dreams. Back in the day, The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, which starred big names in Brad Pitt and Casey Affleck, only made $15 million. So for this movie to get the most amount of eyeballs, I think it had to have been on Netflix. And I know everybody is up in arms over Netflix because they're reportedly buying Warner Brothers. And just to give my opinion on that, I don't think big studio movies are going to land on Netflix the first week of its release. Like, I don't think the sequel to James Gunn's Superman is going to be on Netflix within a month. I think those movies are safe. I think what's going to happen are more movies like Train Dreams are going to be on the streaming platform. Every prestige movie that's going to be made by Warner Brothers is probably going to land on Netflix within its first month of release. And not to go on a full-out tangent about this, but I'm more interested to see which filmmakers are going to work with Warner Brothers if they are bought by Netflix. Is Paul Thomas Anderson ever going to make another movie with Warner Brothers if they're bought by Netflix? What about Denis Villeneuve? I mean, these are top-notch filmmakers who clearly want their movies to be in movie theaters for as long as humanly possible, and Netflix, even if they buy Warner Brothers, are not that interested in that happening. Let's talk about the response to Train Dreams. Early on, people would have you believe that we were talking about far and away the best movie of 2025, and then as time has gone on, there's been some backlash with some complaining about the simplistic narrative. I think I'm somewhere in between. I'm beyond impressed with the filmmaking and the performances, but I do not believe this is the best movie of the year. What's really interesting is to see some people praising the overall filmmaking of this movie, but saying that the movie itself is not very good. I think that's a weird take to have about a movie. In my opinion, if you believe a movie is superbly made, you think it's a good movie. This is just one of those films that's going to be defended by people for a very long time, the same way that Jesse James has been, the same way The Brutalist has. Like, it's just the kind of film that's going to attract a large amount of fans to support it. And there are going to be detractors, but they're not going to be as loud as the movie's defenders. And I do get some of the backlash. I understand you not being that interested in the life of a normal guy who's just a logger. I understand you saying, well, the filmmaking is epic, the story that the movie is telling isn't necessarily. I just think we're talking about a movie that takes itself so seriously that I kind of respect it for that. Like, it knows what it is and what it's attempting to do. And I don't want to spoil the events of the movie and the tragedy that hits Robert Grainer. All I will say is you can see it coming a mile away, and I can fully understand people being annoyed by that. If you walked away from this movie thinking that the movie was emotionally manipulative, it's hard to argue that it isn't. For lack of a better word, I just think this is a film that is filled with gravitas. Like, everything in it feels big. And another reason that I believe this movie is going to continue to have a stellar reputation is because of the leading performance. Joel Edgerton is really the anchor of this movie, the same way that Brad Pitt was for the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, and the same way that Adrien Brody was for The Brutalist. Like, those leading performances catapult these movies into beloved films, and they're the reasons we're going to continue to talk about them for years to come. Right? I can talk all I want to about the filmmaking of Train Dreams, but what I'm going to remember the most is the incredible performance given by Joel Edgerton. I love Jesse James. I watch it a lot, but what I like most about that movie is the performances given not only by Brad Pitt, but also by Casey Affleck, Sam Rockwell, Jeremy Renner. The Brutalist, of course, has Adrien Brody, Felicity Jones, Joe Alwyn, and of course the great Guy Pearce. And Train Dreams has Joel Edgerton, Felicity Jones, William H. Macy, and Carrie Condon. I've compared Train Dreams to Jesse James enough on this podcast to note that they do share an actor. Paul Schneider is in both films and is really good in both movies. Oscar chances. At this point, it feels like a given that Train Dreams is going to get a Best Picture nomination. I think the movie has enough loud supporters to get one of those 10 spots. I would be shocked if it does not get a Best Picture nomination. I think it's deserving of a Best Picture nomination. I'm biased because I like the movie so much. I don't think it's possible to come up with a list of 10 better movies in the year 2025 than Train Dreams. Joel Edgerton should, without a doubt, get his first ever Oscar nomination. I mean, what more do you need to see from this actor? He's been one of the most consistent performers working today. I think he's brilliant in almost everything I've ever seen him in. I find him to be extremely underrated and would love to see him get that first ever Oscar nom. You can never count out Felicity Jones for an Oscar nomination. I mean, she's coming off of one for The Brutalist. She's been nominated before that. She's a 2-time nominee. I mean, I don't think it's a given, but again, I wouldn't be surprised to see her get that nomination. I think this movie is going to end up being beloved by Oscar voters. One nomination I would absolutely love to see is William H. Macy getting his second ever Oscar nomination. His first was for Fargo. I think this is just so different than anything I've ever seen William H. Macy do. I love it when a well-known actor surprises you, and I was beyond surprised by what William H. Macy was doing in this movie. And finally, something I feel extremely strong about. It would be insane to me if Clint Bentley was not nominated for Best Director. There are not 5 movies better directed than Train Dreams. Like I've been saying, the movie feels epic. It knows what it is. It's confidently made. And there are no other movies in the year 2025 quite like it. Now, he's not going to win the award. He's going to be up against the likes of Paul Thomas Anderson, possibly Guillermo del Toro. I weirdly think the best thing that could happen for this movie is not winning Best Picture, because if it does win Best Picture, all of the people who love Sinners and One Battle After Another will end up hating this movie. But because it's not going to win, those people will give this movie a chance. I mean, you've seen it. Movies that win Best Picture that are really good, like Shakespeare in Love, end up being hated because the movie that everybody wanted to win, Saving Private Ryan, did not. So the best thing for this movie and movies like Hamnet are to not win the Best Picture. I know there are some people out there that still believe Hamnet is going to win Best Picture. It's not. I haven't even seen the movie yet. It's not going to be Marty Supreme. It's not going to be Sinners. We all know what movie is going to win Best Picture, and it is One Battle After Another. And I don't want to jinx it, but what a great run of Best Picture winners. I mean, think about this, back to back to back of Oppenheimer, Anora, and One Battle After Another. All 3 are really deserving Best Picture winners. I walked into this movie Train Dreams thinking that possibly the movie had been overhyped, but man, did it live up to the hype. Joel Edgerton could not have been better. Felicity Jones is at the top of her game, and William H. Macy, like I've been saying, really surprised me in a way that I did not expect from the guy who played Frank Gallagher in Shameless. This is a different kind of performance. If you are fans of all 3 of those actors, you will enjoy the movie Train Dreams. And yes, I fully understand the people out there that love plot-heavy movies. I do as well, but every once in a while, I want to see a movie that is different, that challenges me in a different way, that makes me think about what a movie actually is, and I loved the movie Train Dreams. I love seeing something that's different than the norm, and I like the idea of a movie's selling point being the filmmaking itself. This is something that goes back to The Brutalist last year. Oh, well, the movie is all about the director, and that annoys people. I don't get that. Isn't that why you went to go see the movie? To see what this filmmaker is capable? That's why I love Steven Spielberg. That's why I love Christopher Nolan, because they make movies unlike anybody else. And Clint Bentley has a chance to be in conversation with those type of directors if he continues to make movies the caliber of Train Dreams. If we are soon to be in a world without true blue movie stars, I believe the selling point of movies themselves are going to be the filmmakers and the filmmaking. that's going to have to do all of the work for movies to be thought of as epic and worthy of you investing 2 hours of your time in watching. A movie that not only demands your attention, but one that you want to pay attention to. And ultimately, a movie that you want to see more than once. Because there's so much to get out of it other than just the filmmaking and the great performances. Critics can question the emotional elements of this movie all they want. I found it to be effective. Train Dreams is a movie that makes you feel something, and in the year 2025, I think we need more of those kind of movies. And for me, that is what Train Dreams is. Thanks for listening to this edition of Pop Culture Spotlight. I'm Cameron McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Thursday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I highly recommend you check out the film Train Dreams. Next week on the podcast, I'm talking about the film Begonia from Yorgos Lanthimos, starring Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone. So tune into that, and please rate, review, and subscribe.